This one.
Shantideva again.
Oh, that touch you. Me the shot you down. You know, Oslo.
And again, can I get Jojo Kanda do Gigara?
Jojo, they would have been doing that. That can go what? Can go the any Quran Casa single what? Shara. The toss the watching a shaman do. And me, the toss coming to Quran tossing Castle. Catao. Me can watch the toss not your rotting. That's a can devo imba.
Devo can Devo.
Or Tapper, Santa Devo. That's less.
Sanda the Tashi delay left go
that's yeah, that's less. Yeah. That's many did some Kavala Mikran Tayu, not the Tani.
Niga Nishu.
Niga
Nishu Hamba. Any Tambo tick the they will give a new chatting. Goodbye, need to come back.
Yes, yeah, good
morning, everybody.
I know.
Yeah. And and contact you to share to us and those not the meal can it.
Sorry about the long absence, a long kind of wait we had for the last teaching, but again, I was saying, yeah, just had some issues with the eyes and some operations done there for cataracts, etc.
That's all. Yeah,
I hope everybody is well. Hope so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, then what's got to jump to same test to Sanje,
Jodang Sogi, Chonam Lo, Janju Badu, Gap Suchi, Zagi, Chanyan, Gipe, Tsoknam Ki, Jolam, Panja, Sange, Jupar, Shok, Ge, Jodang Sogi, Chonam Lo, Janju Badu, Dadi, Gap Suchi, Zagi, Chanyan, Gipe, Tsoknam Ki, Jolam, Panja, Sange, Jupar, Shok, Jodang Sogi Chonam Lo Janju Ba Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Chanyin Gipe Tsoknam Kin Jolam Panja Sange Jopar Shok
Dayan Tan Gade
Para Sam Gate Bodhi Swaha
Daya Tao
Para Sum Gate Bodhi Swaha
Daya Tao
para Sum Gate Bodhi Swaha.
Wala so semja tamjega do tobja lana ma cheba sanje gomar moja chine ya tobarcha di che de be janju sembe la jana chu che de nyam do lang la wala xingwe xingwa de tuo go tuo wala tuo ji shong ma no wa chi go de an ka so ba wa de an ka so ge se chen bo shi wa la ge ze be junju go de de she chen bi ne ge sam sam che.
And so we start again by setting our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all living beings. And in order to do that, we know that we must perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings in turn, we must have a good understanding of what they are. And we must gain that understanding by being able to rely upon a reliable text, an unmistaken text. And we have such a text today that we will hear from, the great Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great master Shantideva. And we will be listening to some verses from this text today.
lama tube ongbo seto ane tube ongbo ti ane chikaso re sheje chani yesane nyamchaga tena tuse kama lusa namba kula chuku ngomege tocha soa wote deje ngosongkora ane tunge nangala shuyo samsamche.
And so, as usual, then also we start the visualization of the Guru Munindra in the space in front, and we're bearing in mind that that we are trying to study this text in order to put it into practice, and we should develop a very good, solid mindset before actually listening to a teaching like this. And so we visualize in the space in front of us the Guru Munindra, who is in actual fact our own root guru, in the nature of our own root guru, in the aspect of Guru Munindra, in one face, two hands, seated in the Vajra posture, dressed in the saffron robes of a monk, with the right hand in the earth-touching mudra and the left hand at the in the meditative equipoise posture, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar.
근데 랑게 타고도야 다 랑게 세디 파만에 제베로 세디 더 파마 빈자로서 받던데체 아니 생가마 띵가마 전 토마메반에 팅이게 마긴게 심제 탐제 다가자 도나 감속에 심제 탐제 마서메 메바 아니 베 랑게 타고도요 삼사페 어떤 공부자.
Similarly, we visualize in the space all around us, all mother sentient beings, beginning with our parents and our relatives and those who are known to us, but also taking into account the parents and relatives of our previous life and the previous life to that one, and so going all the way back to beginningless time. In short, that we have all of the beings of the three realms of existence in the space in front of us, all surrounding us.
어디로 공부하셔? 아니 둥게 나가라 세대베 라마 투베 옹버티 지wo 옴가버 덴바 아무고 투가 홍베 이게 숨지 세탑 아니 이게 숨지 세탑 아니 어디에 세탑네 아니 데네게 지wo 덴바 투가 홍게 이게 숨 세다나 데네 이게 숨래 왜세 빠도 매바 트네 아니 왜세 빠도 매바 트네 다 그저 가서 심제 탐제게 아니 저게 가서 내도 딕티 탐제파 장치다고 제소 삼사 어디를 공부하셔 어디 장치다고 제네 아니 디 델레초에 아니 개와디게 돼 아니 동송고 동치고 직된 강 용조라 아니 배 하다미 최배제 나서봐 가네 아니 초주 개와세다 제발이야 추바피 초주 개와세다 제발로 추바피와라 되네 초주 개와세다 제발 추바데 다기시네 추바데 아니 시네 대다가 투규를 대화 좀 대외 동바게 대동매배 이시 계속 삼삼체.
And so the figure in the space in front of us is also marked by the three Sanskrit syllables, at the crown, A at the throat, and hung at the heart center. Then countless rays of light begin to emanate from all three syllables, going out into all the different realms, to all the sentient beings, and effecting a purification of all negativity and obscuration of all these sentient beings. And then the virtue of that action itself is transformed into an offering. Really, it's kind of like really symbolic of all the offerings of celestial beings and human beings, an offering to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of all the 10 directions. They in turn accept these offerings and experience a sense of a bliss which combines with voidness.
어디를 공부하셔? 아니 되네 초주 개와세다 제베 아니 구순투게 연대 이발라 라 넘버 투바쟁게 넘버 젠타네 랑게 동게 나라 난가라 세데베 라마 투베 옴버들 파팀 삽삽자 팀 안다 초지게 와서 집에 구송토게 딱가자 연대 이발라 넘버 동바샤제 투바자 왔다 어디데 무슨 거를 20원 무슨 주는 어디데 가서도 정서 삼사 어디를 자원번 뉴스면 봐 주소 어디를 공부하셔 안에 때네 야 라야 라마 투베 옴부 동네 나가서 라마 투베 옴부 투가를 위해서 투베 옹게라나 젠타 아니 ongulano gentane and only ongor only ongulana gentane and Geshe Shabana de la ongo to so and what the so at the only ongo and Chilama Chizu Nevale Mijuba weekend tickets. What in the compassion or that in Tunga Nangala said Lama to be on board Ishiba Nosushona and Chojo Sanja Tamjega Tani so that Tani 이바디 못 turn what that is compassion was about you something what the compassion.
So then all of the qualities of all these Buddhas of the different directions is symbolized by is embodied in the wisdom beings which come to the crown of the Guru Manindra that we have visualized in front and dissolve into the Buddha, thereby really imbuing the Buddha with all of these qualities. And again, the light rays emanate from the three syllables into and these invite all of the empowering deities which now come and offer empowerment, the nectar of empowerment to the Guru Manindra that we have visualized in front. And this then, some of the nectar that is offered overflows at the crown of our Guru Manindra and produces spontaneously the figure of Akshobhya. And we feel now that this figure that we are visualizing in front is the embodiment of all the Buddhas of the 3 times in 10 directions.
Lama tuya ombola mibe ane tawe tawa yichige taba ngundu ke tabaja ane rangi taka niba simje tamche mingne ane deta ke tungay natsula misuwa rwa deta tungay natsula kowa chida chida ke tungay natsula te samutang ane tila tena ane misuwa nyingche ke rwa misuwa nyingche ke ane nyingche di la tena ane tila dewa tungay de tendo ke nyingche ane dewa tendo ke chamba 아니 동네 탐제대 대화 탐제 때 뭐예 지금에서 학생께 다 학생께는 소수 제가 줘도 다 제마도 왔어 보러 다 된대 임도 아니 된대 제대로 누가도 술라도서 라게 되나 세도 라마 투배 홍보때 sem제도 투게 라마라 뭐서 산지면서 다 폰도 폰게 고마 좀 맞는 타면도 대투바이나 아니 저거를 가자다 낭자가 가서 다 sem제가 돌아 맞고 매바 인상 뒤에 감도 매바 삼바 발라냐와 지당 와서도 캔거 여바 인상 아니 낭자 삼자 sem제가 되는데 교와 지금 보이도 다 폰게 고마 좀 맞는 타면도 주와 지금 삼사게 sem게
And so then when we visualize the Buddha from the point of view of all sentient beings and developing this sense of the triple faith, the pure faith, the faith of conviction, and the manifest faith, and that also when we visualize all sentient beings, when we focus on all sentient beings, we are really get this sense of that suffering that we are witnessing is something which is unbearable. And from that is generated a sense of compassion. And that so we have this double kind of mindset of thinking how wanting to remove sentient beings from that suffering, bringing forth this compassion, wanting to place them into every happiness, bringing forth this loving kindness. And this then generates that sense of a special intention or special ambition to really attain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, because I know that it is from this point of view that I can best remove the suffering of sentient beings and place them into every happiness. Unfortunately, I have to face reality and realize that I am not able to do that at present, but quickly I'm able to witness one who can, and that is a fully enlightened Buddha, that they have, for the benefit of all sentient beings, generated that mind of enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings, trained on the path, and for the benefit of all sentient beings exclusively, manifested complete and full enlightenment. And so therefore, I must attain that same state in order to be able to benefit sentient beings in that way. So it is from that point of view that the Buddha knows the different dispositions of all sentient beings, the karmic implications and so on, and so has that intimate information to best be able to benefit. And so I must attain that same state. And so this is the generation of a genuine mind of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings.
What are the niggas sem kene? And then they sem kevati? And because Tavekingo Nyakawachi to Kasorata, sem kevati. 이게 아치를 주소 점수 아 용서 좀 봐야 다외기고 약간와 주네 랑게 랑다랑 타고다 심제 탐제게 아니 두갈 로다 내소 삼사 어된데체
And so from this great aspiration is generated the seed syllable A, which transforms into the moon disk, which now comes to sit at the heart center of ourselves and all sentient beings.
어된다 심제 탐제고도 산제 고마 두빈세 나디 아니 가봐도 나디 아니 가서데 로데 랑왕게 두바레베 로다 나디 토마요레 요리 요마레 토마요레 요마레 아니 나디 간데스 줍도 나디 간데스 요레 다 제조도 나디 로다 나디 간데스도 제조도 아니 나디 다 가자 랑왕게 두바레데 레모도 제조도 나디 랑왕 두바이나 다 탑시 요마레 다다 심제이나 심제나 주어테 요마레 산제 투투 코라 메바인사 다 라완도 둠도나 다 탑시 메바서 다 라완도 둠도 둠도 다운도 제바제오도 랑게 나데 랑게 류데르도 셈데르도 로아 다디가 마 제바제 류디야 아니 류디야 랑게 류싱이 다 류다 셈라 따와 쌈면도 메바데 모트 롱고트 데 류디야 바제바제도 류디야 류기 차샤 모볼 따와 쌈 셈데 생긴가치가 따고 잡면도 셈세도 라원도 뒤서 매들지 다다 가서도 어떤데 이거 인사 어디다 간제 그네 때와 이네 스타서기 실에 때와 이네 다다 나코랑 문에 때와 이네 다다 라원도 두바스가 다 간제 자원이네 매버제다 못 쳐봤지 라원도 두바 임바이나 때는 딱 거이마 때는 때 거서 저도 라원도 못 봐. 다 된거 요거랬어. 데데 아니 라원 못 봐대. 예바대. 가자 가som들 공부도 시. 아니 디 이게 홍지라 줘. 되는 예별로 이게 홍지 줘. 홍 요소 줘 봐래. 아니 도지가 뭐 쟁가 봐지. 네가 그도 네가 된도 네가 더 랑다도 슈대 봐. 저거 되는 공부 시 도지가 뭐 쟁가 봐지.
And so from this, then we examine this self that is aspiring to attain that state of enlightenment. What is the status of that self, and where is it to be found? In the sense that it has this kind of a self-empowered sense of existence. And so we begin to search for this. So that when we enter into an analysis of whether such a self-powered and truly existent self exists, if it does, if we find that it does, then we have to leave everything because it means that there is no means of benefiting sentient beings, that everything is fixed and there can be no change. And so that therefore, we really have to go through this analysis in some detail, looking into the body and into the mind to examine the state, really, the mode of existence of this idea, this sense of self that we have. And when we look into the body, and we search within the body for this self-empowered, this kind of like self-existent self, we fail to find it. And then we may look into the different parts of the body one by one. And again, we exhaustively analyze without finding such a self. And then we turn our attention to the mind, consciousness itself. Perhaps it is something that is inherently existent within the consciousness. But we can see that when we look into consciousness, we do not find it. And then we look into the parts of consciousness, the previous and later moments of consciousness. And again, this self-powered idea or concept of a self is never to be found. And so we have to reach the conclusion that it is something that does not exist, and that we have a sense of self that exists, but that arises in dependence. It is not an independent and something that is an independent existence. It is something that must arise in dependence, a dependence on parts. And in fact, we reach the end of conclusion by seeing that it arises in dependence on being merely imputed by thought. This is the validly existent idea of self. And so this whole analysis, this notion of the lack of true existence of a self and the wisdom seeing this is symbolized by the seed syllable hung. And this seed syllable hung then transforms into a 5-pronged Vajra that is now seen to be standing upright on the white moon disk that we have at our heart center, ourselves and all sentient beings.
다 되게 다와 도지 쟁아바디 뭐다 다와디 가서도 자주가 셈제 아니 도지 쟁아바디 동반이 뭐다 되게 아니 가서도 예배 로티 아니 배두 남야 땅이면 삼사 뭐다 산지가 고마 마도가 봐도 아니 디 짐버지게 디즈보다 뭐서 디다 디 랑게 저다가 저 랑게 닝그 유수네네 네네 아니 자주가 셈 마게바 깨바 권에 권도 배워치 돈이 그때 싫어 마게바 권에 권도 패네 권에 권도 패네 달 가서 산지가 투유기 아니 가서도 돈이 더 배셔라 규토야 돈이 니지니 뭐지가 남래 규토야 왔다 되지 지금에서 담자 샤네 담니마 디리네 왔다 다가라 지금 소소가 다 같이 미국 做 랭킹做的 장주가 서 돈이 더 배셔라 니데 야마데버 야마데버네 마게바 깨바 권에 권도 패게 그래서 가서 저 남래 슈기스 슈기 둔담에 땅가 산제 고마 도보도 됐지버 지금 서다 담자 샤 어떻게
And so we have now at our heart center this moon disk, which is representing the mind of enlightenment, and the 5-pronged Vajra, which is representing emptiness. And we should really make a strong kind of oath or vow never to give up on these twin mindsets of the desire to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient being and the wisdom realizing emptiness until we attain the state of enlightenment. That we want these to stay in our hearts, to be that which is, when we think about both, we want the mind of enlightenment to, if that which is not arisen, arise and grow and increase more and more. And that may the precious mind of emptiness arise and increase, that which is not arisen, arise and grow and increase evermore. And so this should be for us our greatest focus and our greatest responsibility to maintain these twin mindsets at our very kind of like forefront in all of our actions and until we attain the state of enlightenment.
어디 되니고서 내내 아니 랑게 도나 되나 사나 투나 되게가 아니 디가서데 디다 툼바체네 와 디다 툼바체네 와다 tumbachené oda kantudu yongela ani jambada sheshinga simchene kantudu tida tuba chotuwe cheche chigi samsa che odil
And so that means really that in whatever we are doing, we will do that in accordance with these two mind states, with that attitude wishing to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, twinned with the understanding of emptiness, and that we employ the mental factors of mindfulness and alertness to keep us focused on this.
그렇죠. 다들 아니 랑게 되나 세대와 라마 투병부 투가래 타와도 제정가 바디 타와도 제정가 디 타고도 좀 배정가 다에다 어머니 야다 랑다 랑게 타고다 심지 탐제게 투가래야 타와도 제정가 봐 안디 타고라 다에다 어머니 마무니여서 또 배정가 고 되고 되는지 고바시
And so also with the figure of the Guru Munindra that we are visualizing in front is marked at the heart center by the moon disk, the standing five-pronged Vajra, which is now surrounded by the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, Tayata Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Ye Soha. And similarly, ourselves and all sentient beings, with that same configuration at our heart center, that is now surrounded by the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, Tayata Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Swaha.
아니 그래서 덤바게 지원 잡아 두고 란다란다 타고도 이거 심지어 탐제가 지원 잡아 두고 이거 좀 세대면지 어디다 세다 아니 가래 덤베게 이게 조금 전에 덤베게 지원 이거 엄들라 민네 아니 엄들라 위해서 봐도 매봐 아니 트레이닝 봐도 매봐 트레이닝 란다란다 타고도 심지어 탐제게 지원 엄들라 아니 배 가서도 팀수 삼사자 디솔루션 제소 팀수 삼사자 딜티발할 때는 도마면서 류고를 소주와 마지막으로 미상와 줘발라 소베 레니바 컨제사를 세디 생각만 대가 통해서 되게도 마짱저 다치수 삼사자 양 가브레 되베게 되베 아들라 삼로당 아들레 미네 그래서 미네 아니야 조금 전에 아들레 아랑자 빠도 매버 트네 란다란다 사고도 심지 탐제 이게 데베 아들라 파티네 아들라 마티모드 아니 토마 매바네 아니 나고네 사베 디바 주인 참아 측종 가게라 소바티게 가자 사이바 디게도 마 다쳐서 삼삼체 야 가르가 데베 두가 혼텔라 타는 미네 미과전에 야 혼텔을 위해서 빠도 매버 트네 란다란다 심지 탐제 두가 혼텔라 혼란다 빠도 매버 좀 팀 딜라 때네 아니 다 통마면 디바치다 켜봐도 이거나 사베 낙셈 녀선 록달라서 버티게 사베 디바되게 좀 맞짱 쳐서 언제를 공부하시
And so also that when we are doing the recitation of the mantra, that we can sometimes to use placement meditation to focus on the Om at the crown of the Guru Munindra in front. So bearing in mind that the figure in front is marked by the syllables Om at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart center. As are we all at this stage, ourselves and all sentient beings similarly. And so be times we can then use placement meditation to focus on that Om at the crown, and that as we recite the mantra, we see that countless Oms are emanating from the Om at the Munindra's crown, and they come and dissolve into the Om and that are our own crowns. And as they dissolve, we can feel the complete eradication and purification of all negativities that we have accumulated associated with physical actions. So this is killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, etc., etc. And that they are completely purified during this process. And then sometime we can also then shift our focus, the placement meditation, onto the A at the throat of the Guru Munindra. And then countless A's start to emanate as we recite the mantra. And they dissolve into the A at our own throats. And these then start the process of purifying all negativities associated with speech, such as lying and harsh speech, divisive speech, idle gossip, etc., etc. And then we focus on the hung at the heart center of the Guru Munindra, as then countless hungs begin to emanate from there and dissolving into the hungs at our own heart center. And these then, of course, do the job of purifying all mental negativities that we have engaged in. And these would include covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view. So that as we are reciting the mantra, that this process is very active and yeah, very kind of intense process of purification is taking place.
What did I say? Yeah, Gabriel, and Joe on Jamba to go on Sungala Minglichen, Sungala Minglichen on to, yeah, Joe on Jamba to go on Sungale, Joe on Wonke, Randa Pato Meba Junior, Randa Simja Tamjig, Joe on Jamba to go on La Timber, in Pacha the Jama, Jang Samsajan. What did they come say?
And then we can actually visualize all the 3 syllables emanating simultaneously from the Guru Munindra and simultaneously dissolving into our respective Ah Hung. And these take care of all of the imprints of the negativities that we have purified earlier.
What did they come say? Yeah, Gabriel, they got the Tomatubia Ombu Tukala Tawa Doje Zengaba. And Dumbegi, Tagol, Dumbegi, Dawdi Zengabe Tagala, died of Monument Mamus, the Nate, and Delamine. And Dumbe Tukala Tawa Doje Zengabata, and Tukagi Casate, also Dumbe Senga Dele, Randa Pato Mebajuna, and Randa Ranga Simja Tamjia, Tawa Doje Zengabata, and Dumbe Senga Quateva Dilla, Martini. Pato Mebatimi. And they Timbalatene, and it's Ranchen Zenta, Dancing Marik Bata. Ticket be, I guess the ticket ma Rapa near machine, and by Tata machine, or that, and it's Ranchen Zen, the bed because of Meva Chasso something. And by Shenches the Bashik Chasso something, what in the Compassia. And it's and it Dancing Marik Bat, and Mariba Bacha the Java Papa Jamani, or Tameto Beshara want to YouTube. Jungsu Samsa, what did the compassion? What are the legend? What are Tony Janju some Magiba Kiba, Kiba, Kwana Conto, Tony to Beshara Magiba Kiba, Kwana Conto Pen, Jonah. And bear Rinbuma to Tobashaja to be 2 billion, you Jamni the Janjusa, Tony to Beshara, and bear Kiba making to get to a Pacha, Kiba Shas, what I was so Jungsu Samsa, what did the compassion?
And then at times we can focus on all of the combination that has been visualized at the heart center of the Guru Munindra, being the white moon disc representing bodhicitta, the 5-pronged standing Vajra representing emptiness, and indeed the mantra, the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha surrounding all of this is that we can visualize that this is also emanating the whole lot together, and again, and also dissolving into our moon disk, Vajra, and mantra that we have at our own heart center. And this can then deal with the self-cherishing attitude of really eradicating that self-cherishing and then replacing it with the mind which cherishes others. The ignorance of self-grasping is eradicated, and that is really improved, even at it's eradicated even at the imprint level, and this is then replaced by its antidote, the wisdom realizing emptiness or selflessness. And so again, we make that point that may the mind of enlightenment, which is not arisen, arise and grow and increase more and more. May that precious mind of emptiness, which is not arisen, rise and grow and increase more and more.
What did they compassion? Takaja, what did the compassion? What did the channel? That the name by into Takaja. Takaja get you did, that get you did. 这个深圳他们这个都三界恐怕主义是天然这个的连接的感觉说三界恐怕具体的那不多，具体马拉巴这呢，主义是了，他这个咱们查出了，我那那个三界恐怕这了原点通，考了你没通的，考了特别给呢，他把约他们这些约把东我车上对他连接做的感觉是呢，这个可说的，我车上对的呢，这个主个他。탑시 지에다 대규를 레벨 들어와. 근데 이제 다 심지어 탐제가 돈도 뭐 산제 고마 다 주가 마주나 탐내게 좀 어쩌는데 아니 대주에를 배주를 전국으로 와서 저한테 가서 다 대규를 레벨 들어와. 와던데 임바인사 다 대규를 라발라 아니 다 규를 라발라 대규도 어쩌고 요래 아니 대주디 다 가서데 규디 개개되게 세 규디게 튕겨되게 뚝뚝 지고 우여와 와다 디체도에는 준주고 슝데 다 디다 가서 된데그 주에게다 탑라나메 바침바 인사 아니 디 때문에 슝데 아니 얘기 삼사잖아다 미유데 라마 투비하고 고마 주에 체도 그러와 주에 체도 다 디고 잠니 자주가 쓰는 돈이 도 베시라니 아니 추시는 냠슬란 거 그래 딜라에게 아니 개개세 튕겨 주에 체도 아니 준주고 슝데 얘기 삼사 와데 고마자
What's most important, of course, is that when we must take on this sense of responsibility for all sentient beings to attain that state of enlightenment in order to be able to lead them to that state of enlightenment. And of course, we are we are realistic in knowing that in order to do that, we must accumulate the causes that lead to that state of enlightenment. We must also be able to see the faults and the obstacles to being able to familiarize with those causes and to eradicate them. This means we must get a good handle on the faults of cyclic existence, the beauty of liberation itself, and knowing that the means to be able to do this is simply down to training in the causes, to accumulate those causes. And that requires a tremendous amount of effort. And this is to recognize the causes that must be accumulated and to eradicate all of that which must be eradicated. And when we come to finding out how to do this, there is absolutely no better text than the Bodhisattva's way of life. This is the peerless means for training us in the very minds that we have aspired to train in, the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom of emptiness. And we must approach it in this way, that not only now have we recognized the responsibility that we have to perfect the mind of enlightenment and to perfect the wisdom of emptiness in order to attain enlightenment, but we've also recognized that this peerless text is the actual blueprint by which we can succeed in those two mindsets. Shokdrang Nigan Nishu Kamba the Dewe Gewe Nyocha Shing Guban Yitu Gombarcha. Yeah, Jigduba. So we had arrived at a point in the text, indeed at the end of a particular point, discussing the accumulation of what was referred to as kind of positive karmas, and the avoidance and the eradication of negative karmas. And that this is reached a conclusion, the fourth point, which is really the conclusion of this point. This is the first part of verse number 46 in the text. And so it says, therefore I should aspire for virtue, and with great respect acquaint myself with it.
那感觉这个确娘们也不就用了，但连这个做当了，对了这个也把这买你把人呢，俺我这旁边，俺这个他个这联络当点在了小车用不多，可是呢这连这看两把呢，连这我那这也把你把多呢，但是连这也把你把钱呢，这个来上海跟这啥把一把人那样，Rota, like this, Sava Yimba, Tebu Macho, Yon Ticket. Rota, Tebu Macho, Yon Ticket, then never near Ticket, Ding the never near Ticket Jimba, and go Sundu Second Yon to a Shungurwa. Sundu Sungo, Casarangi, Kiawala, Zumba Chibayina, and Tebu Macho, and gave Tebu Macho, Yungu, but never near Ticket. And Mikewa, Masawa Chungura, Mikewa Sava Yina. And it did macho at the Miguel table to let the young diggage. Young digging Yobanza. What are the legend? Never knew about that, so it should get him, but what I learned telling you by thinking she was a money by Yina, should be our young said the Missy Barisha. Missy Barisha. Then that she was juked the one that's our David Gallam Merjashin, Kubani to compassion. That is what I less and they do sing the less sang get just Tondo, Macho, at the young to in Baita. They were now Kiawala Melba chat, Dumba Chatata, gave a chalk and letting body, more trouble chena, and Dilla, Dumba Chen, to make it Dumba Kiawas, Dumba Jashin. Dear Rotaka Judge cook up Namjunla, and it Gasa Chicasa gave a chalk, and it can't to Kituela, and we should use on the bed to church. Check is charging. Landella Gubate, Landella Gubata Ichi, things I would Jova Yina, Gubate, Ichiba need to Jenny, Chigamoto, Ichiba Sune. Jumzen Mambuna Samotana, Ichiba Sune, Ichiba need to Jenny, Kidig Landora Combate, Landola, then Lola Comptitura Combate, Nyamto Lango Chow, Chow Shawa, Tasana, Jona, Dena, Yena, Nega Ganesh Council by Yina, and it Casota did a tumba. Totuba data, never chigors, never in the Yams language, but what did it?
And so to engage in spiritual practice, and particularly when we talk about Dharma practice, we really have to have a conviction in the law of cause and effect. It simply does not work otherwise, that with a weak conviction or no conviction, even if we have that sort of aspiration to engage in spiritual practice, we will be overcome by the counter forces like laziness and so on. And that therefore, we have to kind of really look cold clear at what is referred to as good actions, negative actions, to see the karmic consequences of both. That if we realize that according to karma, there will be a negative result to a non-virtuous action, and that we really take that on board. That we do not want to experience that kind of result. And because we do not want to experience that kind of result, therefore we will avoid non-virtuous actions, negative actions. And what's more, we will make every effort to accumulate virtuous actions. And so it's really that simple, but also that difficult, more difficult. It's kind of like it's so important to have the law of cause and effect right at the very heart of one's practice, because from the level of conviction that you have arises then the quality of actions that you will engage in, and the degree to how well you're able to avoid the counter forces to your spiritual aspirations. And this is really something that must arise from your own experience. You recognize this from your own experience. So according to this semi-verse, it talks about then having this aspiration for virtue at the outset. There's going to be strong desire to enter into a world and a life of virtue. But right after that comes then this need for what they call a respect for the law of cause and effect. And that respect really means a deep conviction in the law of cause and effect. So that then following from that becomes a strong habituation to being able to take up that which is virtue and to completely dismiss that which is negativity. And so this is the key point here, that we develop conviction, so that wherever we are, whenever it is, that we have that habit always of picking the virtuous line of action and avoiding the negativity or the negative line of action. But that must come from a deep conviction in the law of cause and effect.
어디를 다 간제 개치주대 다가도 랜드 세컨데 지금 됴배 수에 샤바들 많이 봐 랜드 세컨데 거 내절로 로 다가자 주된데지 사와이나 대부된데지 맞춰가 요다 이게 주된데지 마사와이나 안 대부된데지 용마도 봐 그러다 된데지 용와라 주된데지 초코와 주다 겐데지 초코와 어다 되가 그래서 수강을 수에 샤 말해 그래서 가서다 가서다 지게 결봐서 내줄 로인데 쓰기도 와. 그 라신거 조단들의 차죠. 라신거 조단들의 임바죠. 다 라신거 조단들의 임바데 수강의 조단 요 말이야. 로아 소수가 제부 저 근데지 되고 여바이나 티 되바디 유가레샤 주 디다 투바지 투바이나 아니 솔라이네 용데지. 로아 또바 켈라멜레 케바가 요 말이야. 거기서는 그 주디 투비나 제부 용데 주디 투면은 제부 용 마용게 로아 당가라서 지금 남바 이민 남바의 민유미 개발면도 와 최켈레명이 개발면도 와 주개와지 사여나 대부디게 연구도 주 미게지 사여바 이마이나 최켈랭게 이내 동의 연구도 용되기도 와 용되기도 와 좋아다 레뇨 온게 깨차쳐도 레뇨 가와다 나와다 치외 동의 되게 용되기도 와 최켈레명 기자 가야면도 와 로아 가야 계자면도 와 어떤데 누구 로아타 삼로탄당 마시바이나 아니 콘로사야다 되게 용되기도 와 삼로탄당 시바이나 아니 콘로사야 되게 용구면도 와 되고 최켈레만에 계자되면도 와 레만에 계자면도 코 주된데서 소소도 되부된데 용되고 그래서 다 되게 춘이래도 와 호라랑시래도 와 다디 임바데 다가자제 임바데 다 못트네 아니 춘이 되다 투바 아니 가라 저게 도나 사나 통나 대 제거들이도 가서 먼저 대화 되고 여러 동네 되고 요 말에 대화 되 동네 마도 인자 아니 대외 교기 거다 춘이가 조당도 준비 주대 주 동네 교 춘이가 조당 준비 동네도 빵과이나 아니 거 대부디 용두고도 와 디 어디들도 다 되게 돼 먼저 뭐 쳐봐지 돼 개체 버려도 와
So most important is to really understand the law of cause and effect. Is not something that one is inventing or aspiring to, but it is in fact the natural way, the natural law. You know, if like you say, if we want something to happen, but we don't create the causes for it to happen, then it's impossible for that result to arise, to emanate. Whereas if we, don't want something to happen, but we have created the causes for it to happen, then it's going to happen. It's going to arise, whether we like it or not. And so it's that clear cut. It is a natural law. And so that, no matter how much we might want something, but if we fail to actually lay down the concordant causes for that result, then it's impossible for it to manifest. And so this is something that we must gain deep conviction in, that if you know, we want something to occur, we must then lay down the concordant causes for it to occur. It does not matter whether one is a Buddhist or whether one is a practitioner. This is not the point at all. It's whether one is abiding by the law of cause and effect. And so you can see this covers everything and everyone, that you know, one's faith isn't going to carry you. You have to actually lay down the causes to achieve the results that you want to achieve. And so, for example, anger, you know, if you fail to eradicate the causes of anger, then you are, you know, it's a pointless and fruitless effort that you're making. You're still going to react to the causes of anger that are going to continuously arise. But if you eradicate the causes of anger, then you will not ever experience the result of anger. And so this is so important to understand. So because, you know, it's presumed that we do want happiness and we do not want suffering. And so it's kind of like obvious to suggest then that if we want the former, we must accumulate virtue. And to avoid the latter, we must eradicate those particular causes for suffering to arise.
다들 생각도 나라도 준비 몰롱 로아페나 레로 용디에 로아 레로에 자지 가서데 자왕겐식 레로 다니엘 길루베 멜로 아니 가서데 로다 다니엘 녜베 레로를 써봐 데레 용데데 가르스나 아니 겨왕아 젤레 녜바 많이 봐 렌데레 녜바 많이 봐 로아 아니 지 렌데지 켈링구야 삼사레데 와다 명잠을 치면도 오늘 전에 렌데 녜바 많이 봐 다디 된데게 도와 로아 아니 다가네 생기 가서데 치와는 예바 많이 봐. 봐. 치와 예바 남친님의 치외도 치마도 관계 마표 받대. 어디 레샤다 요래. 얘네 딩딩 예바도 많이 봐서 아니 거 용되기도 와. 용되기도 하다. 지금 준비 좀 하도 되게 되게 용되기도 와. 어디 딜레테네 아니 지금 가서데 준주게 냠레 시마도 돼 용도 와. 지금 렌데를 예바니 깨왕한지를 예바니 아니 가서래 아니 지 가서래다 저 코에 동해래 예바니 디게 예대바 지마이나 아니 대화 동해 메대바 지고 인사배 잘라고 준주 맞으나 탑에 되게 좋아 준주 장주 용 되겠지 안 된저고 류텔을 예바니 근데 이번에 류텔도 돌아다는 거 말아 나도 예바 많이 봐 인사 이 사가자 지가서 식담라 치면도 문에 전에게 삐다보지 용마도 뭐지 예바 많이 용 되기도 와 근데 이마이다 먼저 하고가 상을 평고다 다다데 남배 흉내 셰게 셰랍스도 숨수고요 봐 롭중 전에 하고에 지기 열에 최종의 셰랍스 디펜도 오모도 다디 이바디 초망분에 삼로다네 아니 지가서 초망분에 삼로다네 예바 버터 예바다 지 땡지만 예터발라 아니 삼중의 셰랍스도 디가 삼중의 셰랍 예바디 아니 세도 되는 아니 검중의 셰랍 코미다 근데 저도 아니 라슈가다 준주다 디가 그 용토에 지르도 와 다들 용마도 하던 거죠 지금 된데게 셰랍 숨게 토네 아니 예바지 매바 인자 최종의 셰랍 삼라다네 최종의 셰랍이 야외 셰랍 생기 셰랍래 그래 다 되는 인자 디인자 아니 시부 지금 다 하고에 담다 밀을 제세자에 편 도고도 라는 냠래라 대상 편마도 된 내가 뒤 찾고도 와 어떤데 인바이자다 뭐죠 지금 퇴삼 검소 야마 제베 토네 아니 예바지 도바죠 대중아이는 아니 준주스가 장수 가가 조조 용대 정도로 와 아니 준주스의 개와라 또야 삼바스가 또 중앙 개라 또와 오승으로 와 아니 개와 두배 가서 개와 딜했는데 아니 배 라신 니가 그냥 다 집어 두고 있어 아니 또와 용거로 와 또야 어디를
So we are looking at this particular chapter on enthusiastic effort, And that in the presentation, it describes the different kinds of laziness as the principal obstacles to developing such effort. But we can see also the very clear connection here between having a conviction in the law of cause and effect and the degree to which one is able to apply one's enthusiastic effort. And so we can see where we talk about the laziness of being attached to that which is negative, or the laziness of procrastination, or the laziness of despondency, thinking I'm not good enough to do this, etc., etc. Now, these are a very clear correlation to a lack of conviction in the law of cause and effect. And that, so therefore, it is developing an actual conviction in the law of cause and effect that will naturally lead to more enthusiastic effort on our part to engage in virtue and to avoid negativity. And likewise, the meditation on death is extremely important as well. That we know that death is definite, that the time of death is indefinite, and that only our virtue is going to help us at that time of death is extremely important. And of course, you know, we've heard these before. We could say, oh yeah, I know that. I know those 3 points to death. But the fact that our lives aren't changing and that our attitudes aren't changing towards the positive means again that we have we know it, but we don't have enough conviction in it to actually integrate it into our lives. And this means also it always goes back to a lack of conviction in the law of cause and effect. You know, that naturally, a meditation like that on death, of contemplating that death is definite, knowing that that leads to, it should, the result of that should be that one is now, really enthusiastic and dedicated to engaging in Dharma practice. Because death is definite, you kind of reach that conclusion. But the fact that you don't put that into practice is due to a lack of conviction in the law of cause and effect. And then certainly the second point, that the time of death is indefinite, is going to lead to the conclusion that there is no time to waste. I must do this now. I don't know when death is going to come. It could come any moment. And therefore, I must not waste a single moment of time. And, that should be a highly convincing fact. But the fact that we don't therefore follow on from that is due to a lack of conviction in the law of cause and effect. And so on, that we have to really understand that knowing is not good enough. It's just not going to cut it, that we have to develop the 3 wisdoms as referred to in the teaching. The first is the wisdom arising from learning. This is the raw data of Buddhism. And this is not that helpful, because it is a wisdom that is reliant upon somebody else's wisdom. It's not something that is homegrown, as it were. The second wisdom is the key, that it is the wisdom arising from contemplation. This means that we have taken the raw data and that we have analyzed it through analytical meditation. And so we're starting to really develop this particular information as our own. We're actually nurturing our own wisdom. And finally, the wisdom arising from meditation is what brings this home. This is when we are living what we are espousing, and that this leads to realization. So it is said that we must practice these 3 wisdoms in unison, as something which is together, to bring it home. And so it's very, very important that we take this on board when we're talking about the levels of conviction that are needed in, for example, when we are trying to apply the law of cause and effect. Because if we have that conviction, it is that which best is able to assist us in not only fulfilling our own purpose, but the purpose of all others as well. So the next outline is the second outline, which says saying that like the power of, it's like the power of reliance, or the power of stability in a way. And this has two subheadings. The first is initiating firm resolve. And then the second is having started, then we should go on with whatever we have decided to do with a certain conviction, a certain resolve. And the first of these has 2 points itself. And the first is that, first of all, having kind of analyzed or examined something well, then begin. And the second is that having begun, the fault of thereafter abandoning. And so the first of these then is like having examined well and then begin. And that here it's saying that if you have analyzed, looked into an act of virtue, obviously, then if one concludes that, yeah, I can do that, I can carry that off pretty well, then we should actually embrace it fully. We could really jump into it and bring it to its conclusion fully. So the verses is the second half of verse 46 and 47. Having undertaken the wholesome in the manner of Vajravaha, I should then proceed to acquaint myself with self-confidence. First of all, I should examine well what is to be done, to see whether I can pursue it or cannot undertake it. If I am unable, it is best to leave it. But once I have started, I must not withdraw. So,
yeah.
and so this verse cites a particular sutra known as the Avatamsaka Sutra, or the Vajravuha Sutra, who is also known as Devaputra. And so this runs like this, the actual quote. For example, Devaputra, when the sun shines forth, it illuminates any suitable place without being turned back by such obstacles as blindness in people or even uneven mountain formations. Likewise, when a bodhisattva shines forth for the sake of others, she opens and liberates any suitable disciple and is not turned back by the various obstacles present in sentient beings. And so it's saying, and just like that, then then we should really, once we have decided on a virtuous action, to really understand that we have thought that we can actually do it, we really have concluded, and then we should habituate to the self-confidence that will pull it off. We should have that self-confidence. And so the word in the Tibetan is the same as for pride, but Genla is distinguishing here, of course, between that which is an afflicted emotion, pride, being an arrogance and so on, looking down on others. This is a pride which is more accurately described as a self-belief, a self-confidence, that you are sure that you can actually go ahead with this, and that will actually lead you to actually going through the action and so on and the conclusion to it.
초가이 개vel랩 삼내서 좋다. 근데 탑시 나소베 전에 개vel랩 전에 좀 뉴소냐베 아는 가게 공부죠. 소저 셈 마슈바잖아 셈. 답가제제 생야 되네. 근데 뚝트벨라 배주 지고레스. 뭐라다? 어디나. 다 델라 주베에서 당보 된데게 셈을 잔주가 셈. 다 델리 계세가 줘발라는 샬라 평바 주베게 당보라. 당보 좋아대. 대다보제 소저 좀 뉴사래 뉴사 말에 당보 딱 예매 따네 때 좀 네가지 여봐이나 아니 다 지게 그래서 마소나 excuse 맞아 다디 지야 다 제바지 야라 마티 맞잖아 아니 좀 네발 배준 지고서 쌈네 그래서 따네 다디 여봐이나 좀투야 문에 전에 그 좀투바 도와이나 아니 샤마샤잖아 좀투바 지고서 쌈 야나 쌈고레스 쌈바 지고레스 아니 되면은 당분에 마삼바니데 야 그래서 고마주 왔잖아 다 당분 두면 다 좀투서 말해서 다 고추 뒤땅제 전에 두두바 있더나 아니야 지가소래 아니 지야 디샤마 샤바잖아 아니 쌈바 투바 지고레스 그러다 주베 당보 좋아데 주베 누가 유메 따네 되네 나는 연나 쌈고레 쌈 야나 당분에 두두하면 당분에 마 샤샤고레스 쌈바 차이 있어 게데 미네나 마잠바니 초인기 쌈내네 다 쌈차네 또 뭐도에 탑시 지고레스 감독도 뒤쪽에 답이 적어서 또 자고 싶어.
And so here it's saying that when one, or before one, enters into any course of action, at the first one must analyze to see whether or not you're able to do it. So that process has to be clear and honest, and that if you, for example, conclude that, nah, I don't think I can do that, then best not to begin, best to leave it as such. But, you know, it's not about kind of making excuses for yourself. It's about being very open and honest about your capacity to do something. And so if one is on the basis of one's analysis concluding that, yeah, I could do that, then once you have started, then don't turn back. Don't leave it undone or incomplete.
What did it right? 당보 도에데 당보네 점 도자라 도마서 때 아니 당보네 보다 도자만은 마샤자 다 점사도 아니 가서 가서 초인게 점내 도바 미자워서 다 점내 아니 도바 지죠 말서 다디 도바 제와 있는 가리용서 아니 마음을 점 도바 책을 말을 거도 이내 도와 되겠지. 용 되겠어. what did it 그래서 내가 근데 잡아 있네. 강에 제주 이봐 당분은 하고 받치네. 당부 레라부 잔자 삼로당 레라부 잔자 삼로당도 아니 제가 저도 강에 채워 그러와. 당분에 맞은 걸 오게 뒤쳐봐 있나 강에 가를 채서래. 오 강에 뒤용서 아 근데 강에 근데 용과 이마이나 이 강에 다 동네 가를 채도서래. 오 동네도 오 다다다는 게 진짜 가서 게 동네 제 탑시된 걸도 저는 게 제도서래서. 당부도 레라버저 아티티티저 아티 레라버저 삼로 땅 때문에 문에 제도 당부 삼로 마호와 강에 먹고 채워요 봐. 채워요. 다 되게 인바이서 당부네 하고 봤잖아. 뒤쳐봐나 강에 가르쳐서. 뒤쳐봐나 강에 가르쳐서. 뒤쳐나 강에 가르쳐. 아니 강에 되게 건가 놀라지 차도 봐이나. 아니 강에 뒤 여봐 이바이나 강에 동네 가르쳐도서래. 다 동네 된데 제도고도. 동네 된데 제바나 강에 매버 소도고도 와. 근데 소도바이나 어떻게 고쳐는 즉사래요. 삼래 아니 오늘 강에도 중앙도 아니 동네 되게 배주 땅도 받잖아. 다 당보 삼로 땅도 레라버지 삼로 땅 치바이나 강에 충주도 쳐바이나 미수바 용데 그래. 당보도 강에 되 각자 많이 받잖아. 강에 되게 강에 세이답라. 아니 탑시 요겠지. 다 뒤쳐바나 강에 가르쳐서래. 아니 강에 되게 강가 하고 자소나 아니 강에 세 탑시 같은 게 가르쳐 봐 용서래. 아니 네가 다 고부터 있잖아. 아니 마토바 야고 좀 그러와.
So it's a clear, but it's an important point that if we are presented with a job to do, and then we analyze that job. Now, if we conclude that we can't do that job, then it's best that we don't begin and leave it so. But if we conclude that we can do that job, but without due kind of diligence, without really examining it, and just kind of going, oh yeah, I can do that, and you enter into that. Now, it's very likely that you will quit after the first obstacle in that job. And now the trouble with that is that this is going to create a habit of you prematurely entering into courses of action, and not compose our habits and be on in real difference. And so important part of this particular course is you possibly can predict problems if object not to be overwhelmed, think this problem, but actually really think about so if so we're talking about then the process that we should go through before we take on a course of action or a project or whatever it is, that we actually try to predict what might be the problems that we would come across, but then also to think about what might be the solutions to those problems. How can we actually deal with those problems should they arise? And then when we have all of that in our mindset, then we can kind of make a much more accurate gauge of how wise it is for us to actually start. And then, we are armed with our own analysis, with our, looking into what might happen in the future. And so we can begin with a lot more confidence, because not only have we got the desire to complete, but also when we do meet with problems in the course of that particular project, as we inevitably will, then we are not overwhelmed by them or not discouraged by them, but we already have either a solution for those problems, or we are willing to actually look for a solution for those problems. Whereas if we go in naively and without doing proper analysis, and then we kind of have that joy of initial enthusiasm, but when we meet with a problem, we can very quickly be overcome by that problem and drop everything. And that is a bad attitude to have. You know, it's better that you would not have started that in the first place. Because if you are going to be like that, it's going to create a habit of a kind of litany of incomplete projects all through your life.
다 단다 소에데 냠내를 송고요다 냠내 지에게 어느 소소게 냠내 집에 갑라 아니 근데 지고 있는 중거 말도 다야 자와 냠바 된데 이마나 당보네 자와들 맞추바 슈 사바 임바 이나야 노르 지만 남자 도도가 지고로 자와 냠바라야 도답 지고로면 또 오다 담 켈렌사라다 모주는 맞을 지금 말 오다디야 배줄로 받아야 매와 단다디 단다 자와 세데 추가 냠내 집에 갑라 쓰고 열와 장주그 생고 냠내 집에 갑라 쓰고 열면 또야 자와 냠발에 대패디 자. 자와 바로 못이도 지금.
And so, Kenna's just reminding me, yes, that of course the context here, the context is that we are trying to practice the Dharma in order to generate the mind of enlightenment and attain enlightenment and so on. It's not talking about entering into any negative actions. Don't worry, if you start those, you will have no problems. You will be able to fulfill them fine without any analysis. But what we are doing here is to kind of really understand that we're trying to make sure that what we are going to enter into in terms of virtue, in terms of generating that mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness, that we have thought about it clearly and we have made an informed decision to go ahead with it.
지금까지 최대 투바 자와 상부를 때 아니 당고 마잠제 짬 차베제 아니 짬 과다 보고 제바제 편바 그래도 아니 때 잡아요나 한개 그래도 되게 다 하고 배잖아 짬 사도 아니 마도 봐 모두는 제도가 지고 그랬어 어디 숨요 다 된대래도 다 된대 임바 인도 어디서 니봐 짬는 도연이 다 그데 자와 다 지금 된대 그 장주선배 주변 냠는 게 되게 돼 아니 짬 차네 짬네 아니 제가 야고 맞제바제 아니 합주를 지 어디 야고도 받지 아니 전에 제자도 아니 공 맞죠 받잖아 소라 니바 짬네 도 아니나 다디 교연차 그랬어 니민에서 니민의 자와래 개와 신도 디검신 디다 동에 펴와주 신야 TV 뒤자네 그래서 매주 대양 주미주르자
Yeah, so it really is this case of like you know, when we before we're beginning to really consider what obstacles there might be to my practice, to have, you know, the mind training in place to deal with those obstacles when they arise, so that one is not in any way perturbed or that one's practice is not in any way interrupted. And so that's what we should be doing. The next verse, the second of those two outlines was, then once we have begun the faults of abandoning. And verse number 48 discusses this. And just so it continues from 47. But once I have started, I must not withdraw. If I do, then this habit will continue in other lives and evil and misery will increase. Also, other actions done at the time of its fruition will be weak and will not be accomplished.
가서 기부 전제기에서 전제기 전제기 뒷바다 남인기 동에 아니 펴와 주죠 그래 펴와 주죠 그래 오자 치잠배 자와 현야 레데니기 제비 두자네 멤버 주래 다 되게 견지 그래서 멤버 주세 봐 대랑야 준비도 봐 주를 셔보고서 아무데가 더 준비도 봐 담아지 받는 용을 셔보죠
And so saying, yes, the consequences of having started something in mistake and not really considering it, then one will have to deal with the result which is concordant with the cause. and that this is going to be really that which feeds the habit of incompletion, that you will find yourself withdrawing from other projects that you have started. And this is going to create this terrible habit. And this is going to also lead to negative results, the kind of ripening of more and more suffering that's going to increase. And that in other actions then as well, they will either be, done with a weak resolve, not well done, or they will again be abandoned as well. So this is something that should be avoided.
다 개세가 냠려서도 초지 겨와서도 제가 안에 방고 샤전에 심지어 탐제가 된 두빈 있어. 저는 담자 샤기 열받다. 근데 담자 샤네 아니 맞아봐는 초지 겨와서도 제발 그거 땅으로 왔다. 루아 제발 와. 루아 어디 루아 제공 것도 와. 왔다 되게 삼로 땅에 삼로 땅 것도 땅부 개만에는 말래 벌래 잡에 잘라서 그다고 좀 마소하는데 빼면서 내가 지고 그래도
And so, for example, that many of us have made that pledge, that vow, in the front of all the conquerors and the children of the conquerors, the bodhisattvas, that we will attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so, if we were to abandon that, then we have deceived all of these conquerors and the children of the conquerors, and that would have very drastic consequences, of course.
다 되게 삽사 맞잖아. 삽사 맞잖아. 다 내가 저거도 내가 저다. 야고 제와이나 편요 빠도 봐. 로아서 초 빠도 봐 줘. 그러니 장주가 셈견의 셈제 탐제가 된 주스도 아니 두개 세워도 아니 배 네바 망부 다 줘. 깨바 뭐 네바 다 줘. 아니 산제 살아 람 진예도 줘야 되는데 다그 용되게 요래. 야 디켈레네 마주바이나 jelapave nyabaya pato meba yon tegenchi redwa ta tigede wa samle yapo chma tangwa ina nyanga chibu che duwa ta tigede kanga samlo ta ka chma manwa che di ke chma redwa wa o de cha ta ka chma to banya la ma chma che jamba de shi sing ge songwa che ani de che to na ani ta mo zo milu le sanje ge temba de che 안디 나네 태바 첨부 temba de che de cha de ani mo che bu choba chwa wa ke wa sang bo wa
And so, yes, that we should be therefore careful in what we enter into. That, for example, in a situation like really the vow to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, if we live up to that, we kind of like embody that, and then the benefits are amazing. It's really incredible, and that we will be looked after from eon to eon. We'll be able to meet with the Dharma again and again and again, and to complete the all of what needs to be completed. And that, but if we haven't lived up to that, if we make that vow easily without considering, and then act contrary to that, or indeed drop it, then the consequences are equally as negative. And so that's hell realm consequences that come along with that. And so we have to consider, what business have we to make such a vow? Well, we have a precious human rebirth. It's extraordinary. We have met with the Buddha Dharma. We have an affinity towards the Buddha Dharma. And so that should give us confidence to pledge to make such a vow with confidence that we will be able to live our lives in accordance with it.
그래서 준준날 요바 그래서 지금 가서래 셈제지라 아니 진기 지마 땅이 있어 상생게 지마 땅이 있으네 지마 땅이 삼삼제네 아니 땅이 셈레 되네 아니 지마데 마지바 임바이나 지마데 주바이나도 편용을 지마데 마지바이나 이다게 규주부도 다 셈제 탐제라 라라메베 산제 고마라 고긴 있으네 초지 겨와서는 저 아니 빵도 샤네 아니 초지 겨와서는 저 정안에 아니 담제 샤네 다디 마제바 이나다 다카리 용사리 다 딜레테 버 징기 예삼 셈제라 상세게 지바 징기 예삼레 다네 마제바 이나 디다 줄어 저거 여바 이나 줄어 저거 연다 셈제 탐제게 돈도 산제 고마도 셈제 내가 다 타도고 된 탐제 두번 징기 담제 샤네 다디 강투도 그 마제바 이마 이나 다 가봐 줬어요 다 가봐 줬어요 딜레파나 징기 내가 상생게 지바 징기 삼사지는 마지막 이마이나 이당 줄어 저거 또 여바이나 라라메베 장주 대화로 고인에서는다 그 답시 마지막 이나 다 그바 조사려.
And so just as an example, again, in the Bodhisattva's way of life, there is a scenario whereby one has the thought to give something to one sentient being, but you do not follow through with it. You don't actually do the giving. It says that the result of that is to be reborn as a hungry spirit. So then consider that you have vowed to benefit all sentient beings, to attain the state of enlightenment in order to be of maximum benefit to all sentient beings, both temporary and ultimate. But you renege on that and you do not follow through. What could be the negative consequences of breaking that vow?
당분에 내라고 싶고 삼당 될지도 거지르다 다들 소수도 제단자 삼로 당당라 되는 랄레 되고도 와 왔다 된다 삽삽제디 개체버려도 와 다디다 디체도다 제부 맞춰와 연구 요바 인사 디체도 개체부 시월하겠다 나라도 냠네 그릇 지고도 삼로 그릇 땅도 제단 그릇 지고도 다 지금 가서래 지금 람마노와 맞춰와 고리 맞춰와 제 때는 거 요바
So we have to, be very, very careful, isn't it? That, kind of, we can be blinded by how beautiful everything is at the beginning and make an easy promise that we can't fulfill because we haven't done the due diligence on our own resolve, on our own conviction. So it's so important that we're not caught out in a way. And that to really understand our own habits, kind of what are we so habituated to ourselves is very, very important. To understand that, when we talk about practice, does it actually accord with our everyday actions? That are we following a path that is complete, that is unmistaken, and that is all set out in the right order.
And
then the second point is here is having begun, and then to be able to continue with resolve, to be able to carry that off with resolve. This is going to be presented in general, and then some particular points explained.
So
the first is from the first half of verse number 49, which says, self-confidence should be applied to wholesome actions, the overcoming of disturbing conceptions, and my ability to do this.
And then langdo chebe nuba rota langdo chebe nuba de sumbotala mashumbar and drum the bengacha also.
And so this refers to having that self-confidence applied to not only the virtuous actions that we engage in, but also the overcoming, that which is that which needs to be abandoned, the mental afflictions. And also in terms of both of those, what the capacity we have to increase our virtues on the one hand and to eradicate our mental afflictions on the other. So these three aspects, one needs to be able to have the self-confidence, and self-confidence does not kind of reach despondency or be discouraged with regard to the completion of these three activities. The second point of those two was then a more detailed explanation of each point in turn, and so this is three. First is the self-confidence of action, the self-confidence related to capacity, and the self-confidence around dealing with mental affliction. And the first of these is three. The first is the recognizing what is the self-confidence of action, and then there are the reasoning behind why we should develop this, and thirdly, then the responsibility, the self-confidence of having the responsibility to deal with the inferior actions of others. And so the first of these is the self-confidence of action. And this is the second half of verse number 49, which says, thinking, I alone shall do it, is the self-confidence of action.
아니 계획에 대다 탐제 라한다 생겨 된 타치버 두베치도 계획 레 탐제 다 지구 자오셔보다 다 지구 소수 지구에를 두두바 지기했어 자오셔 로도 개고래서 대니네 레경하게 이도 대니를 레경하게 선텐지를 쓰기 요랬어.
And so this is really looking into fulfilling the purpose of myself and others. That is the being able to accumulate all virtue and to eradicate all non-virtue. You really take on that sense of personal responsibility of I myself alone, I will be able to do this, and I take this on. And so it's really developing that powerful mind, which is referred to this self-confidence of having that sense of personal conviction.
This is and something don't well Katsemego rangi nuba so to get the jetuba jigging is as a never tell and condition jeba in there and Katsemebo Jungo Yorba.
And so once one has that fully developed, where one is that much focused on benefiting others, then the actual application of that can be completed without due stress or due difficulty, because one is really inspired through one's own confidence to be able to do that.
나도 semje 탐제가 된 주근이도 sem제라 펜배체도 아니 근데 짐바 임바이네야 근데 짐바이네 pen 잡아봐가 누구 요바이네죠 안들 펜바 근데 지고 요바이네 아니 제 sem제 탐제가도 산제 고마토배체도 아니 소소디 디체도 주주고 요 삼사데 전 아니 같이 연구 말와 아니 sem제 수다 투바 임바이네 sem제 탐제가도 산제 고마토배체도 아니 두 투에 소치 안들 펜바 두에 제가 저와 샤예 디치도 다 간토도 팬도 제도야 안 팬도 주도는 가라는 제도가 지금 삼삼 그 어떤 제 딱 이제 충산에 가 우리가 충사 지금 사회 통해네 쟤는 야는 지금 장마소에 저다 갑래 주에서 근데 임바 보다 지금 어스 딩에 지금 있었어 게 제도가 지금 있어서 보다 이제 대가 충산에 봐제 아니 충산에 저는 검건 전부터 제도가 중국으로 와 용구로 와 용구래 어떤데 가자 셈제라 펜바지 주바이나 아니 디 가서 펜바 주바디 펜바 주바디 아니 산지게 줄라 아니 조투바치 소소 꾸는 거 줘봐나 용구 여바 인사 아니 조투바 줘봐나 가리네 진이 되어 중국으로 와
And so when we say, I will attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, what does that look like in our everyday actions? It can be pouring a cup of tea for somebody. It can be benefiting somebody even in the smallest of ways. That as long as we have that motivation, that I am doing this in order to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, you are then laying down the causes for enlightenment. That's very, very important. And so it's not something like impossible to begin with. It happens in every moment that we have to meet with anybody, to kind of meet with that person with that motivation straight away to say, how can I be of benefit to this person? And so it's not a question of doing, the large, grandiose thing, but even in the smallest of things, providing some food or some drink for that person, just to take that personal responsibility. I'll be the one to do it. I'm going to volunteer for it. I don't wait for somebody else to do it, but to get into it yourself. And that to be getting used to doing many small beneficial things for others with that motivation to attain enlightenment to benefit of all sentient beings will train us into doing bigger and bigger and bigger things for the benefit of sentient beings. And so it's very, very important that we realize that we are laying down the causes for enlightenment in all of these actions, large or small.
아니 수용반에 진치와 막힌 그 심제다 아니 심제 탐색도 산제 공부 중에서 어때 뒤체도 심제 대다 그 체도 인삼사 어떤데 그 삼로당 아니 아니 ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 사자 난고래 인바이네 클라소에다 아니 지금 투주셔야 될 강내 요 말이 가서 셰 지고 말해 수그 컴 제도반에 봐 가병하는 어디 심제 탐색도 산제 진치와 막힌 그 심제래 아니 진짜 막에서 다른 레그 온게 사사체는 용 당ገል들 편도되어 구급체래 심지 탐제라 되는 시 제도마쇼 사자는 칼라소나 장마소나 거르체나 고세 작업만 소수 강태도 제도바 이나 최차되라 소소를 캡사는 어느 사설을 최를 저거도나 아니 소소를 캡사라고 자고 그러 안데 가나 용거로 봐 어디를 용거래 가나 용거래 어떤데 간제 지금 가서 데리고 삼로톤에 제도바 이나 다 데려
So, it's kind of like to understand that whoever it is that we are with, they are a kind mother sentient being. It is my job, my duty, my responsibility to help, to be of benefit to them in every way I possibly can. And so this kind of brings forth this constant, how do you say, impetus for kindness that we should have towards each and every person, regardless of who they are or what circumstances they find themselves in. And that, with our family, this can be, very convenient that we are providing food for our family in our conversation with our family members, that we are saying that, due to karma, that now I have this particular close connection with these sentient beings, these kind mother sentient beings. So it's kind of like a beautiful scenario for me that I can practice my best self or my best confidence or by my best kindness, towards these close in karmic terms, close sentient beings, and to use that sort of training to say, may the benefit I'm bringing to these family members may it carry on to be of benefit to all sentient beings in the future, to expand it out to all sentient beings, and thereby really kind of bringing oneself in line with, yes, you understand the benefit of what you're doing, but to use that benefit to bring delight to you, to have that sense of joyous enthusiasm to the art of being beneficial.
다 제제 내가 인 삼자 총 삼다 내가 인 삼자 전에 진이마도 자 제제 소지 냠내 인 삼자 제가 이나 아니 좋아하게 그러 좋아하게 그래.
And so what brings the delight is not that, the specifics of what you're doing, but the fact that what you are doing that's my practice. I am simply doing my practice, and that I am fulfilling my vow. That's something that brings that sense of a beautiful sense of satisfaction and delight to the mind. Niba. So we leave it there for today. And so again, what's very, very important is to really actually transform our life into a life of practice, to do our very, very best to integrate what we have pledged to do, what we have trained to do, what we are learning to do the best we possibly can in all instances of our day, of our daily life.
아니 베네소소 지금 내가 지금 있네 베네 그래서 나르스다 대기겐다 가리바 있네 소소 지에도 소소 냠내 이제 오다도 진짜 막힌 그 심체래 아니 안 다른 걸로 구급을 내가 온게 되게 제와지 차वर 어떤 걸로 구급을 편도 구급도 우선 아니 가병안에 제와이나 아 최차되기도 와 최차되기도 다들 겹상으로 와 아니 저 내가 단다 소소가 지에들 강해매 봤지 So, for
example, in work, if we are a nurse or a teacher, that we are seeing what we are doing not as work, but as practice. And that, again, we are seeing the opportunity in what we're doing to enhance, to strengthen our practice, that the people that we are working with and for are not accidental. They are kind of like they, due to karma, are in my life, in my line of work now. And so when you are able to transform that into one's practice, then one has a great deal more meaning involved in everything we do in these particular lines of work. And it brings a lot more delight to what you are able to do. And this is Dharma practice. Make no mistake, this is Dharma practice. That you will find with this attitude that you will have far less problems involved in, and indeed you will be able to deal with whatever problems do arise with a great deal more skill. Again, bring our focus on the figure that we have visualized in front, the figure of Guru Munindra, Shakyamuni Buddha.
년조가 셈 그러다 년조가 셈 야부 즉 삼로다 고아다 즉 도아리도 가와 개와 임바이네야 아니 즉 루주소스 동엘레 미대와레 what that and there's a master and redo Kawaki in a decaya, less Savai was Sally or what there is a cutter, Mutune or call a cottage, you won't take it what the name was and the Rota, Tunga Jua Tunga, Chava to Jig Tungale Mateva, Chava to Jet Tungale Mateva, Chava to Jig Tunga Japan to Amachaba, you know, and Jue Tunga. Tunga the Jue Tunga the news or chatting it wow, that there is a mood in the Kanga on it. But they let Tawa Majan, trouble to Tabachi, Sada Kumbashe, what there is a what there's an or calling Yavachuang and Georgia Kumbashe, telling Yavachuang and John T. And Casodi, you pump large or Rangi Wall, you pump to so some subject. Pump Juso, Pam also Juale, Pamatamaki Bajila Juso, subject. Joso Sabtacha, Chinanga Chokandji by Inea, you didn't do us again at the pan. You saw your Maria Sapota Choba Kumbashe. You didn't do you might not tender to go to some of the tender to go to the you didn't do me but that to go your something. What in Kumbashe and the Tombani come to the Guatu Java Chavacha, some of the Tendengi Lodi. And it because you who you also do and you make him when Yaka was doing payment to Neso, some such. That the day Ravana Maduba Yibayinsa, then it to buy into that Sunday command that took because of the Tubayina to where you can chat it. What I said the day into and some time to go Sunday command, you want you the Madon to but on the top of the Tuba chicken, such a Jaju subject. Then they get to Bati, you get actually I also do what I when Yaka and you make you go to the Neso, such a but there's a lama number the target you open the kind of Kusun to Jamuto status, then the Soata Vetana, Tampuka Super, Lama Tuyangu. Chen, you back of the show, super television, Sanjay Komamato with the Chesu, such a Pata Yabushu, Lama Tua Umbugan, Chesu Yabushu, so Kaokon, and then Yala to Mamenda Jabapi, what is it?
And so here, then we begin with the visualization of the Guru Manindra and the space in front again. We started contemplation on renunciation. How, the fact of the matter is that we are in cyclic existence. This cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering. No matter where you are in the 6 realms of this cyclic existence, we do not get beyond that suffering. There's no genuine happiness there. And so we are unfortunately also accumulating new karmas all the time, which keep us revolving in this cyclic existence continuously. We have to undergo the sufferings of suffering, the suffering of change, and particularly pervasive suffering, knowing that without us being able to get beyond pervasive suffering, we cannot get beyond this cyclic existence into liberation. Not only that, but this pervasive suffering induces the suffering of suffering and the suffering of change. And so we really developed this sense of despondency around our cyclic existence and the need to really attain liberation from it. And that this desire to attain that liberation is that renunciation, which is symbolized by the letter BAM. And this transformed into the lotus mandala seat at our crown. And then we look into the both inner and outer sense of self, whether this idea that we have of a truly established self is valid. And when we go through the analysis, we find that, in fact, no, that this self must be something that arises in dependence. And, we reach that point of realizing the emptiness of that truly existent self, and that is symbolized through when we gain that conviction. It's symbolized by the symbol hung, which transforms into the sun mandala seat, which sits on top of the lotus mandala seat. And then we realize that this then self, which is arising in dependence, indeed refers to all phenomena arising in dependence. And this opens the the possibility of being able to attain enlightenment, for example, in order to benefit all sentient beings. And so we can start to really gain that conviction in the mind of enlightenment itself. That this then is something that is symbolized by the syllable A, which transforms into a white moon disk, and that sits on top of the sun disk, etc. Then we utter the invocation verse, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness and bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." We utter this thrice. And then at the end of the first recitation, the figure begins the journey from the space in front to our crown. At the end of the second recitation, has taken their pre-prepared seat on our crown. And at the end of the third, we have that conviction that the Buddha Guru will remain with us until we attain the state of enlightenment.
Pema 이게 밤질라 주소 밤 요소에 pema 담아지 받질 주소 삼사차 지나가 저 유단 저 투상이 맞 코다 주고 공부하셔 된된 예별로데 아니 이게 공공은 수지와 님의 기본 약화와 주소 삼자다 삼자 탐제도 산제 고밤 노원이도 마도 탐도 토바 지기 산사게 된데 dum바디 이게 아직 아요소 주발에 다외 기본 약화와 주소 섭반대 자외 라마를 보자 다게 니가 빼면 그래 구소도 좀 구조세도 선대자 담비 가도 니마가도 쇼 수면가 땜션 산제 고바바도 부대 제소다 야고시 공바샤 되네 니 배마다 니에다는 마 좀네 남비닝대단에서 디가도 도지가고 생각하고 체가제 가자 디 타고도 좀 생각 다에도 뭐는 마음을서 리버스 고쇼 되네 지도 잠에요 송가 오마 알아봐서 나디디디디스 고샤 되네 때데가 소모 영모 예다마도 와 셔마나 이소아 되네 고되네 되네 주 공바샤
So then again, now we make the offerings of the mandala offering and the 7 limbs of practice. And again, we contemplate renunciation, arising in the form of the syllable BAM, which transforms into the lotus mandala seat at our heart center now. And then through the contemplation of the not finding of a truly established self or self-powered self, whether in all inner or outer phenomena, that transforms into the syllable Hung, which again transforms into the sun mandala seat, again at our heart center. And through this reality, the possibility of enlightenment becomes very obvious. And so we gain that powerful aspiration to do whatever we possibly can to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. The mind of enlightenment, which is transformed into the syllable A, which transforms into the moon disk, completing that seating arrangement at our heart center. And so again, we utter the invocation verse, "O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." Again, at the end of the first recitation, and the figure moves down into our central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat at the heart. And at the end of the third, we have that certainty again, that beautiful conviction that the Buddha will remain until we attain the state of enlightenment ourselves. Then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white 5-pronged vajra. Then that package is surrounded by 3 mantras: the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, the mantra of Manjushri, and the mantra of the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and then the mantra of dependent origination again in a clockwise direction.
rangi ningi wesa lama tuwa ngomba neba di kusong tula wesa chune rangi jibo ne kanti ka pala wesa chune ane rangi thoma meba sewa dikwa jibo de kiaba tuya ane soa chiba maja mendo zun sama tsanga zun tama tsanga nga nasa ndusa loda shiba taka ja jebe khana matowa rangshen khana matowa tse di tse nga ma di nga ma thoma mama sa dikwa dikwa pa jansi taba cho taka nisho sosa tobe tomba da kawa janju sebe laba da kawa sanga ke dansi da kawa pata mala maguba kiaba da lobe loba maguba doa sumba cho 군조소나 뇌벨레자 담배 쳐봐 법에 균을 거어도 심지어는 뇌벨레 기버서 도나 토리다 답에 교수요 예동 거 수치자 법바 장시 다수 삼삼체
And then the light rays emanate from the Guru Buddha within and permeating through every cell of our bodies from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, affecting a very thorough purification of all negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since beginningless time, such as the 10 non-virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, and idle gossip, of covetousness, wrong view, and malicious intent, of purifying all negativities that we have accumulated in this life, in the life previous to this one, and previous to that, the next one, and so on, back to beginningless time. All naturally occurring negativities have been purified, as well as all those actions which have been proscribed by the Buddha, and all of the downfalls and infractions of our vows, be it the Pratimoksha vows, the Bodhisattva vows, or the Tantric vows, all the disrespect we have shown to our parents, all the way up to our gurus, root gurus, and all negativities that we have accumulated have been completely purified. Those that interfere with our practice, such as physical illnesses or mental illnesses, they have all been purified. So all of the channels and winds and drops, all the imbalances there have been realigned and rebalanced. And so the elements of the body as well have been rebalanced. And so all of this rendering us completely fit for practice as well.
그래 다가냐 타면게 나 가서 뉴도 산제 고마다 괜치 타면나 저 괜 단자 장네다 자롱 틸레 괜다 가나타자 다발지 바지 차도에 괜 가려 되게 바탕자 강가 아니 지가 소리 다가제 제 다발지 바지 차도 야고 쇼 중소서다 아니 된 와저 고마셨다 소제 신도 저 롱데 니랭자 라마샤자서 그 꾸데 렌지 다기르데 라마 소슬르데 라마샤자서 꾸로 주소 삼사자 소소시도 제가 선대님 라마샤자스 그 투들 이제 저 소소센데 라마샤게스 그 투를 줘 랑게 롱아에서 라마샤자스 그 롱아에서 에메 주소 삼사자 디 대화제 대외 동바제 대도니 소의 이시께서 삼사자 란냐사가 네티야 내가 견타제 장네 라마샤자스 그 다베신도 주소 삼사 어디는 공바차.
And so then also, of course, the main obstacle to our quickly being able to attain enlightenment, being the ordinary view, is transformed into being able to see pure view in all of our dealings and all sentient beings. And so then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the principal or substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And now I see my own body, speech, and mind as inseparable from the body and speech and mind of an enlightened being. And this brings forth a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the non-dual bliss and voidness.
구순도 뭐 예매 주어데 나라라시 매버 공부시 디 두가래 라마샤자스가 빠도 매버 줬네 아니 심자 탐제라 아니 라마샤자스가 차상와를 티발할 때는 대다 탐제 기지가 라마샤자스가 꾸를 줘서 섬자 대다 내사가 내다 좋아리 두고 내 되거든 여기 전 탐제 다네 안 다비시 라마샤자스가 다비시도 줘서 섬자 다 심자 탐제 라마샤자스가 살고 봐 디시도 대치의 개화갈 주가 대주가 소소도 잡아 유대는 주바성도 두장 영화 말에 코다 주바고 대 디 대화 동반자 대돈지서 계속 써서 고쳐.
And then seeing myself as a fully enlightened being and empty of any inherent existence, I send out light rays from my own heart center, equal in number to all of the beings in the 6 realms of existence. And upon reaching them and dissolving into them, they are completely purified and arise as fully enlightened beings. And the place that they find themselves in is now transformed into a pure realm. And so I really dedicate that I have attained a state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And also this dedication of the virtue that has been accumulated, the leading of all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the virtue that has been accumulated, myself as the agent of that virtue. I see all as completely empty of inherent existence and no way existing objectively, even at the atomical level. And this realization brings forth a sense of bliss which combines with voidness, and I abide in the non-dual bliss and voidness.
다 심지어 담자 상기를 살아 거기 있어. 다 니만 데린 거에 도서 다 야고 쉬고 종소서는 가고.
And today is the day I've led all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. That's wonderful. I rejoice in that.
그래 다 단단도 먼저 매번 이제군에 문에 걸어 된데 레로도 요마로 얘네 단다 삼로 땅원에 신전 rum부마도 받는데 용에게 아니 그런 뭐지.
And so, of course, we're operating at the level of aspiration and the imagination here. It's no way we can simply say this and make it so. But we will reaffirm, rededicate ourselves to really making this happen and really laying down the causes for it to be brought about.
다 근데 용발은 랑산제 공부 토부래. 랑산제 공부 토발라 아니 장주에서 돈이 되게 싫어가 냠내 지금 니부 돈이 니부 지금 남을 냠다. 다 근데 니부 돈이 니부 지금 니부 니부 지금 남 냠서 나와라 다 랑국고 요도 다 근데 시작과서는 다 랑게 사나 도나 통나 대나 다 간자 지게가 나지 대도 단용 통도 도송 다 내단 근데 차바 이나야 장주가 섬 살이 차도가 돈이 되게 싫어 랑게 차도가지 마저나 탑 매버려. 다 된대 임바에서 와다 된대 그 차투에라 아니 점바의 시신게 차투에게 아니 담자샤 배전체 아니 점바의 시신거 손에 아니 컵도 차도가 제투에지. 어디 지마요바 제투에 다 개치 모르와 와된대 그 배전지기 삼사체 칸토도 제투가 지기 있어. 니마 데리나 고소자다. What did the summer time get with what did she do what again? Jet to again, and get said, twinking to be a shadow, Choju Jawa said that a jingle up, so what the moment in the ship.
And so, of course, to do that, we must attain the state of enlightenment. In order to attain the state of enlightenment, I must perfect the mind of enlightenment itself, as well as the wisdom realizing emptiness. And those two principal causes, I must indeed try to integrate into everything I do. What I'm eating, drinking, going somewhere, returning from somewhere, the work I'm doing, regardless of what I'm doing. These two mindsets should be to the forefront of my thought and my consequent action. This is really what I am rededicating myself to today. This is the source of the happiness that I can have, the fulfilling of the aspirations. I really want to kind of reaffirm my vow to be able to do this and to employ the mental factors of mindfulness and alertness to keep me aware, to keep me honest, as it were, with regard to the thoughts that I should have and the actions that should ensue from those thoughts. And so with this, I invoke also the blessing of all the gurus to be able to give me the strength to be able to do this and be consistent.
Simjen Kadesh Nawa Ibana Nawadala, Janjuga Sim get to it, Niji get to it, Jambada Niji get to it, Janjuga Sim, Lamin Chato, judgment Jim, but Lana was a judgment, Timbo Hobbit, Janjuga Sim, the Tony to Janju Lola Chato. Netan Kadesh join a Ramana Madu, Tony to be shut up Lola Chatwich. They were joined there, they were joined at 10 Jumari. Don't get joined at 10 Jumari. control sawa de control ten jungare. And the control sawa the Magiba de Samatama, control sawa Kona, you didn't do to Tumo the Jebachi. To the Saya Tuya contention by in there, continuation contention by in there, you didn't do to Tumo the Jebachi, you didn't want to what you need to edge. What is it? 대화 중에다 동네 중에다 되게 장주 돈이 더베 로라 차사게 시대 요래 가서 거 유대는 맞고 봐라 안티 유대는 맞고 될 로라 차도 왔지 기부 중간에 유대는 좀도 제바자 유대는 맞고 봐 딩여바니네 셔럽게 답지 독부 중간에 유대는 맞고 봐 이바데 뭐 쳐봤잖아요 아니 뒤잖아 그래서 돈이 더베 셔럽 차답지 내가 라바디 때네 중간에 대야 돈이 더 로 차다자 내가 쇼와이네 쇼와데 때네 중화래 때네 중화 임바데 로라 차다자 디 마기바 마제바자 디 라완도 좀도 제바 제완데 아니 마기바데 메바차네 디 돈이 더베 셔라게 튕겨로 줘도 받지지 심장 그대 개와이네 데 진짜 마긴 심장 디도 잡아도 이제 검도 받지 다 된데 제토와이나 링보도 마도바 장주가 셈키고 링보 마도가 돈이 더베 셔라게 그래 그래. 어다 계획 줄을 납는 줘봐이나 아니 내가 다 타돌래 되네 때도 저에게 다 타쳐봐. 어다 산제 고마 두개 밑에 다 된대지 맞잖아. 탑매 말해. 어다 되래 제국이 요사래. 어딘데 고마시 어째. 야.
So whatever sentient being we come across, or whatever sentient being we meet, we are immediately into our mind comes the mind of love, the mind of compassion, that there is no judgment or whatsoever, that is simply they are an object for my love and my compassion. And to kind of say, regardless of what the situation is, that this is the mindset that we operate with and none other, and that this is going to habituate our mind to the mind of enlightenment, to wanting to be of benefit to as much as possible to all sentient beings. But likewise also that regardless of what is arising for us, whether it's a frustration or whether it's happiness or whether it's sadness, that we immediately bring forth the wisdom of emptiness in there to see that this is something that arises in dependence. It's not something that is accidental. It arises in dependence. There's a cause and effect behind it. And that's therefore, we should understand it like this. And that goes for, yes, this whatever the happy moments we experience, as well as the suffering moments so we experience, the anger that we may be witness to or experience ourselves, it arises in dependence. It's not something which is independently just coming out of nowhere. And to see that this is the fact of the matter. And so all of this serves to, first of all, ameliorate the unhappy situations, and to, also allow us to really kind of experience fully the beneficial moments that there are. And so it's kind of like really seeing that everything that we encounter is a conducive condition to adding to our understanding of and our depth of understanding of both the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. If we can do this, then there is no doubt that we are going to reach a point of a completion of the causes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings and to gain a realization of emptiness. This is it's something very important to have in our minds, that all of this has a result, has a goal for us, and that we should use this as like a fuel to really continue with and continue on the path that we have chosen.
Condition condition de nyomola beju tang chen za ani ma zo bizi so sha ge do so da de member de diga ga church be tungele beju tang ge ina ganga beju tang do wari ganga beju tang do wari.
So it's really a case of really understanding that all that occurs is conducive condition for the development of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. It's all there. It's whether we are using it or not is the question, or whether our mental afflictive side is actually, barging in there and using these conducive conditions and to kind of like really mess up our future life.
그래서 단단히 뒤전 천자 소에 그 제대 가서 갈락도 가서 뒤전 천자 소에 제지 라도 갈 민가래 뒤전 소에 니 가서 뒤전 천자 소 로단한테 소고다 가서 로단한테 소고다 뒤전 천자 소에 뒤전 천자 소에 돼
The atomic particles?
what's called light making, what's called what's called no light making, no what's
Electricity?
nuclear what there 디 야갈에 배주다 누가래 배주다 누가 디데 지거라 와
Oh, so it's like, yes, a nuclear power. It can be used for good and it can be used for...
배주다 누가 아 독자래 배주다 누가 누가 아무지 야갈에 배주다 들어다 누가지 누가
It's true. There's a good side and a bad side to it that it can be used in both ways. Yeah.
맞다. 딱거지 야가 배주당에도 거기서 땅도 받지. 땅도 줄럽좀 제대라. 줄럽좀 제대. តែ 야가는 누가 니 배주당에 야가 배주당 댐주에 줄럽좀 제배다 따다 들어와.
And so when we talk about our training in the Dharma, again, it's kind of like it's imperative that we use this for the good side, isn't it? To be able to use it in the right way and not in the wrong way.
What did it? Yeah. Yawan di
In your Buddha,
lai san ge zhu yuan ne zhuo wan jie yang ma liu ba de ye san lai gue ba rai shuo chan Ma kia pa nama kia yuroi je kia pa nyam me kai ko ne ko do pe warai sho do ne ta wa me bo je Ma kia pa nama kia yuroi je kia pa nyam me ba yang ko ne ko do pe wa sho ka ri ra we ko we
Shin kam dear pandan de
wa
wa
mo
mo
lu
lu
ju
chong
ne
wei ne
Chen
chen
re
re
si
si
wa
hong ten jing ga zo yi sha pe si de ba de de bo chi mi ge te Wong Bo Jiao Liang Gang Chen Pen Pei Zu Ken Tong Pa Bang Lo Sang Dryak Pei Shab Lo So Wa Dem me te we te chen chen can pe wong bo jiao yang gang chen pen zu ken tong pa pa lo sang gai pe shao lo so wa de me te we te chen chen zing Wong Bo Jiao Yang Gang Chen Ken Pei Zu Ken Tong Pa Pa You are Avalokiteshvara, a great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Lokshan and Drakpa at your feet, I make requests.
That's all. Thank you. Take care.